And as we mentioned, as Brad said, it is official. The New England Patriots are heading to the Super Bowl for what seems, I don't know who wrote this, like the millionth time. They're going to be taking on the Eagles, the Philadelphia Eagles. Big game here for those in the Northeast. Joining us now is James Yoder, CEO and founder of Chat Sports. James, I saw the Jags versus the Patriots yesterday afternoon, and I got to say, it's like, what is it about the Pats? Like, they can, they get it at the very last minute, it seems like, because the Jags had them sweating for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this happens every year with the Patriots, that they just find a way to win at the last second. It reminds me a lot of what we saw with Alabama in the college football championship game a couple weeks back, where you just felt the entire game that the second the Patriots turned it on, that there was a chance that they could win it. And that's what we saw happen. We saw it happen in the Super Bowl last year. We've seen it happen many playoff games throughout Tom Brady's career. So not really a surprise when most people predicted the Patriots, but I don't know if anybody really predicted them to have to come back from down 10 in the fourth quarter.
Well, let's talk about Tom Brady's hand injury here, James. How did that affect the betting lines?
Well, so it's interesting. The lines kind of popped up to 9.5 after initially being an 8.5 line a week ago. And then once the news of Brady's hand injury came out, they dropped 2 points. And the final game time line was 7.5. So just slightly higher than a touchdown. And that really kind of is interesting because quarterback is usually the only player that can affect a line by more than 1 point. So we saw a 2-point change in the line. And if he would have been out, though, you might have seen the line be more about by 1 or 2 points. We've already seen with Rob Gronkowski, they've come out and said if he is out for the Super Bowl, he got hurt in yesterday's game, he wouldn't affect the line by more than a half point, maybe 1 point total. So quarterback is the position of note when it comes to football. If Brady would have been injured, it would have been a much different point spread. But as such, I think the gamblers or the bookies knew that he was going to play and probably play as close to healthy as he could. And so it didn't really affect him too much. No one was gaining an advantage by betting for or against the Patriots.
Yeah. Some serious concerns about Gronk, James, of course, near the end of the first half, right? Took that helmet-to-helmet action. They took him out to get concussion testing. I mean, the Pats were able to win in the end, but any sense as to whether or not Gronk will be able to play in the Super Bowl 2 weeks from now?
No sense yet that I've seen. Now, a helmet-to-helmet hit, a concussion, potential concussion protocol. 2 weeks is anything's possible. I think it's going to be a game-time decision. We're not going to find out at least today, I don't believe. So if he doesn't play, the Patriots showed that they can win without him against one of the better defenses in the league against the Jaguars. So I don't think he is as much of a difference in the Patriots winning or losing as a lot of people might see. I think it all is going to come down to Tom Brady. Can he get time in the pocket? Can he make the throws they need to make the throw? The target of those throws, whether it's Gronk or somebody else, doesn't seem to affect the Patriots as much as it would another team that really relies on individual pieces in the wide receiving core.
James, let's talk Eagles-Vikings because the Eagles just absolutely pounded the Vikings yesterday. Did anyone see a beatdown like that coming?
I don't think anybody did, no. It's certainly not with the quarterback play that we had on both teams. So you've got Nick Foles, who now has an opportunity to be the first quarterback since Tom Brady 16 years ago to win a Super Bowl as a backup quarterback. He only played 3 games in the regular season as the starter, and now this is 2 games in the playoffs, so 5 games this year. Once the Vikings went up 7-0, I got a sense from a lot of people that I was with at the time. I have family members in Minnesota that they were ready to print their tickets, buy their parking pass to a Super Bowl at their home stadium. So no one certainly saw 38 straight points from the Eagles after the Vikings got off that sort of league. We forget the Vikings had the best defense in the NFL this season. So for the Eagles to run off 38 straight points was a big shocker. And hats off to the Eagles to lose your quarterback in December, a guy who was playing at MVP level and still making the Super Bowl is as unprecedented as we can get from an NFL team. So major hats off to them.
Yes, those Eagle fans definitely excited. Of course, we know the Super Bowl is going to be in Minnesota this year. James, how big of a deal do you think it is that we got 2 Northeastern teams in that Super Bowl in the Midwest?
Well, you certainly won't get people shying away because of the cold. If it would have been Southern teams, California teams, you might have seen their fan bases shy away. I know our staff, we had consider whether or not to do a live event at the Super Bowl or in Atlanta for the College Football Championship. The weather was a factor for us, so I don't think you'll get those snowbirds trying to avoid going north for the winter. It's interesting to see what will happen, though. The weather will be a factor, certainly. In Detroit about 10 years ago, it was definitely a factor. I know people who went from the media side of things when it was in Detroit. The last true cold weather Super Bowl, it was in New York a few years back, but the weather played nice. Is that it really affected things? The fans weren't able to get out as much. Some of the fan events were not as well attended. Media members didn't want to leave their hotels because it was so cold. So I think from that side of things, the reporting will be kind of reflected on the weather. But I do believe that the fans will show up for both these teams, specifically on the Eagles side. Their fans have been thirsting for a Super Bowl. They were in one 12, 13 years ago, also against the Patriots. But this Eagles team has never won a Super Bowl, one of very few teams that have never won one. So their fans are going to show up big time in Minnesota.
James, let's talk ratings here because NFL ratings have been down. Viewership has been down, especially this fall. At the same time, I know I sure have Patriots fatigue. I complain about the Patriots all the time. Do you think those two factors will decrease viewership of the Super Bowl this year?
I think the NFL and the broadcast partners are very happy with the result because you've got two of the blue bloods in football. Outside of the Cowboys and maybe the Steelers being in the Super Bowl, this is as good of a matchup as you're going to get. You've got the Eagles, who have fans all over the country in one of the bigger cities in the Northeast, and then the Patriots. There is some fatigue there, but I also think there is a little bit of intrigue. Can Tom Brady win his 6th Super Bowl, which would just so distancing from any other quarterback? Two other quarterbacks, Montana and Terry Bradshaw, have also won 4. If Brady wins his 6th, just how legendary that'll make him, how much further he'll be the greatest quarterback of all time. So I do think there will be quite a bit of interest on the television side. The Brady factor, and then can this backup quarterback, Nick Foles, with his team that no one really predicted to be a Super Bowl contender when the season started, can they overthrow the dynasty that the New England Patriots are? So I do think the ratings will be strong for this game. Had the Jaguars been in it, I do think we'd have been talking about something completely different. I talked to a few people who aren't super big sports fans yesterday. They didn't even know where Jacksonville was located, and these aren't your typical sports fans. But I think it shows the interest the casual viewer that the Patriots can bring in versus a team like the Jags.
It was interesting, too, to see the dynamics, of course, between Coach Belichick, Tom Brady, and Robert Kraft, owner Robert Kraft there, of course, as we saw that bombshell ESPN report out just a few weeks ago. James Yoder, CEO and founder at Chat Sports. We got to leave it there, but thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Go, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, Kristen loves whatever.
Just
she loves the Patriots. She just can't get enough of the Patriots, which is so just mind-blowing to me.